one word, I would describe being a Christian as love. Plain and simple. So 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, now these three remain, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And I mean, that's how I would describe being a Christian.
I would describe being a Christian as a lifelong and all-encompassing relationship.
I would describe being a Christian as living for Christ and experiencing his goodness on this earth, and specifically experiencing the goodness of his presence on this earth, with the promise of experiencing perfection with him in heaven. So I think it's like a two-part kind of definition of what it means to be Christian. It's part of what we do on earth. Well, really, it's part of what he's done for us so that we can live a life, experiencing his presence on earth. Even though things aren't perfect, even though there's still brokenness, we also have that promise of a perfect life with him in the future.
I feel that so many people that are drawn from or pushed from the church, or feel like they've been pushed from the church or abandoned by the church, for the most part feel like they have had a lack of love, that they've been judged and not loved, and they feel like, you're a Christian, so why would you do XYZ? Why would you act XYZ in a, whatever way it is? And instead of coming to a person in a loving way, even if you're reprimanding them or pointing out, whatever it is they've done wrong, we're still supposed to show love. I know you hear a lot of people say to hate the sin, not the sinner, to hate what the person has done wrong, but to still show them love. And I don't think that a lot of people that are not Christians feel that love.
The gospel, knowing Jesus and being in a relationship with him, sharing him with others, and chasing his global dreams and valuing those, and not the American dream.
In Matthew 22:36-40, it says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and all the prophets hang on these two commandments." It's really easy to love people that you like. It's really easy to love, for the most part, your family and your children or your spouse or your friends. But it's a lot harder to love people that have done you wrong. We're called to preach and to teach and to draw people in. But you can do those things in some ways, but not effectively without love.
So much more can change come this election day on Tuesday, November 3rd. If you can't make it to the polls in person, most states will allow you to vote before Election Day by submitting a mail-in absentee ballot. That's 2020 Election Day by the number.
It's a shame that the face of Christianity in America is white Southern evangelicalism, and these, like the face of Christianity, unfortunately, cares more about Christian moralism than Christianity, right? So Christian moralism being, essentially these things that you should do to be a good Christian. And I really do think that's a shame, because being a Christian is more about what Christ already did for us on the cross than what we should do. Of course we do things as an overflow of, what Jesus has done in our hearts, but that's something that's very, very different from the gospel that a lot of white Southern evangelicals are preaching. So so my advice, if you're worried, is just to really have a spirit of discernment, to really hold on to the word as God's word, and make sure that you have community that is also willing to discern alongside you.
Somebody very wise once told me that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. So we don't have an opinion on politics as Christians, because this country has a separation between church and state. So we don't have an opinion on what the state does. We have an opinion on what the church does. And we don't even have an opinion on it. We read the word to know what that is. So how do I answer that question after making that statement, right?
I would, as someone who works in politics, I would say that I kind of have a realistic and sometimes pessimistic view of it. There are a lot of strings being pulled in politics. There's a lot of things going on, and the needs of the people aren't always met. There are some really great politicians out there that really do try their hardest to work for the small person, but a lot of the times that isn't done.
I mean, the state of the country is wild, is the word I would use to describe it. It's just wild. I think we have gotten to a place where we're just numb. Our people, Black people, are just numb to the things that are going on because these things are not new to us. These things have been going on for years and decades and centuries, and it's just now recorded so everyone else can see all the things that have been going on and been done. How would I encourage someone worried about the future of our country? So Isaiah 43:2 says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Right now, our country is figuratively on fire and drowning all at the same time. But the scripture is a reminder to me that there's hope, that our God is covering us, that we shouldn't fear the things to come because he's going to keep us through it. Yeah, I think that's really all I can say to that.
It's become increasingly clear that politics and life are intertwined, and that's the case for both people of color and white folks. And encouragement that I would give for the future of our country is that even if America is not this beacon, this bastion of hope, of the American dream, of all this prosperity and goodness and things like that, even if it ends up like Rome, which was that back in the day, and then it fell. People say that Rome wasn't built in a day, but it burned in one. Even if that is America's fate, it doesn't change who Jesus is. That's my encouragement.
That's good.
But I would say for a Christian who is worried about the future of the country, the world, that this isn't our home. And we are not, thankfully, we are not in charge of anything that goes on. God has the final say. He has the ultimate power. And we should truly put our thoughts, any fears that we have, any hopes that we want for the future into his hands, because he is the most trustworthy being to handle them.
To turn up. Hey, turn up. So I listen to all genres of music. I like rap, hip hop, gospel, country, jazz, classical, everything all across the board I listen to. But to calm down, I'm always in my worship music. Right now, I have had Maverick City music on repeat, on blast, on my Spotify. I also love William McDowell. And Jonathan McReynolds is always a vibe for me.
To calm down, I really enjoy a lot of choral music, classical choral music, specifically Eric Whitacre. I really appreciate his work, his musical style, his writing.
I love listening to classical soundtracks or instrumental soundtracks, like anything by Hans Zimmer. I love that dude. He's a great artist. Or I like to listen to jazz. I'm such an old lady. Or I love this really great playlist on iTunes, and it's called Inspired Chill. And it really is a great way for me to chill out, calm down after a long day, and it has some really soft and cool tunes to listen to.
To turn up, I listen to trap music, reggae. I love CCH, Christian Contemporary Hip Hop. CHH, Christian Hip Hop.
There you go. That's it.
I listen to Christian Hip Hop. So the Cray, NF, all those.
To turn up, I've been listening to Toby Nwigwe. I found him on Instagram. A lot of people have been finding him right now. He's going viral. I think he's a super dope artist. Jordan Armstrong is always a favorite of mine to turn up to. And my homie Tay Collier. If you haven't heard of him, find Tay Collier on Spotify. He's not a super well-known artist, but he's a really dope rapper and he brings the word. So shout out to Tay. You're dope, dude.
I listen to rap, and to calm down, ironically, I listen to hard rap.
Wow, amazing. Wow. Oh, and also I meant to say that for the reggae that I listen to, Coffee, I love her. I love all of her stuff. I've been listening to all of her stuff on repeat.
To turn up, I have my, I think it's called my extreme workout playlist, and I have a lot of Lecrae on there. I have some rap on there, anything with a good bass that can get me going, working out real well or anything like that. Wow, my initial hopes and aspirations for 2020. So the number one thing is that I wanted to start grad school, which I did, and get good grades, which I did, which was like very surprising to me, surprisingly. But yeah, it was really difficult, but in a different way than undergrad was. But it made me learn a lot. It was a good teacher for me. And my other aspiration or goal was to get a house. And that's been a whole ordeal. But it's still in the works, and I'm still trusting in God to get me there. Hopefully I'll be in my new home in 3 or so months. So let's see, 2021, please get this for me. But if not, then I know that God has a bigger plan for me.
Well, I guess, at first I knew that 2020 was going to be my first year out of college, so I just wanted to be able to go to grad school and like have a place to live that was not my parents' home. So I was very shocked when I ended up getting married in 2020. I'm very grateful for that. However, that was like not my plan, and I think at first that like took some like warming up to me, like for the idea of being married, and also being in grad school and like not having a job. And like a lot of that isn't what I would have expected it to be, but yeah, God still met us, right where we are.
I think every year my goal is just to grow and to become or be more healthy, whether that's physically or spiritually. That's something that I'm always trying to do every year. It's a goal of mine, and I'll put in random milestones to try to reach. And what is it? There's a quote that says, if you aim for the moon, you'll land in the stars. So I feel like I almost never reach whatever my end goal is, because I'll make it extreme and then I'll land, somewhere better than where I was when I started. So it's for 2020. One of my goals spiritually was just to journal more. I'm not a journaler. I used to write a lot. I used to write like poetry and songs, and just in the past like decade, I haven't really done that. So my goal this year was to journal more, or to even begin journaling. And so I kind of started in the beginning of 2020. I definitely fell off throughout the year. I'm going to try to make that a goal for 2021. So how has that goal changed? I think I've been focusing, instead of on something that's a large undertaking. To me, that was kind of a large undertaking because I was reading a plan of the Bible in a year, and so it's like multiple chapters, and it started to feel overwhelming for me. And I wanted to go back to basics, to find just maybe one small scripture a day, and to meditate on that, and to pray, and to become consistent just doing that small thing. And I've gotten better at that. Not where I want to be, but I'm still growing, and I think that's been helping me. It's particularly in this season that everything's been a struggle. Just taking that small amount of time to meditate has been very helpful. So I think that's how my goals have changed.
That's funny. I can't actually say that I had any initial aspirations for 2020 before December of 2020. In December of 2020, I knew that I wanted to get engaged. December of 2019. Okay. There we go. So in terms of, yes, plans, hopes, aspirations for 2020. In December of 2019, I knew that in 2020, I wanted to get engaged. I don't know if I had more aspirations beyond that. Maybe a rollover aspiration to read a book a month. It's kind of like a every year aspiration. But yeah, really just to get engaged. That's what I knew in 2019, and beyond that, I couldn't have told you. In 2020, like the beginning of 2020, because we got engaged in February, I knew that I wanted to get married in 2020, and how those plans changed is that in 2020, we got married earlier than we had initially planned for. So
yes,
that was how things changed. Still got engaged, ended up getting married, and got married earlier than planned for.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that has to do with COVID. We were planning a big thing that ended up having to be a very small thing. So since the thing ended up having to be so small, we were like, why not push it up? Why not have it earlier? Yep. Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on entertainment today? Do you think it's hard to stay focused? Entertainment today is crazy. There's just so much content on the internet. There's, social media, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's Twitter, and then you have all these streaming platforms, Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, HBO, Amazon. There's just too much. You can't take it all in. You can't follow everything. You can't be in the know on all the content that's going on.
Do I think it's hard to stay focused? Absolutely. I do think that the music industry is an industry that I'm trying to get into. So from what I've seen of it, from what I've experienced of it, I think it's really toxic because it promotes a love of yourself and a love of your gifts and talents, and that's something that in it of itself can be toxic, and that's relationships aside, and I think that there's so much toxicity that can happen when you just continue to build a love of yourself instead of love of yourself and a love of your own gifts instead of loving the one who gave you these gifts. So I definitely think it's just it's tough, I think, to surround myself with like-minded people or like-minded music to really make sure that I'm not just doing this because I want my name to be known. I do want to do this so the name of Christ is known, and that's, I feel like that's kind of rare in the industry in total, as a whole. I think that's unfortunately very rare.
Entertainment is everywhere today, no matter where you look, no matter where you are, and it's really hard to tap out of it. I have days where I'm just so inundated and over just being, looking at people's lives and getting bombarded with entertainment or promotions or commercials every day that I want to tap out, and I delete all my Instagram and Facebook off of my phone, but then I'm still like seeing the TV and my family they're watching it, or different things whenever I go outside. And it's just like really hard in the 21st century in 2020 to tap out of things.
If you're like me, you have a fear of FOMO and you don't want to miss out on anything. You're trying to take it all in. And then you lose sight and you lose track of really what's important and what you should be doing. I could spend so much time scrolling through the internet or binge watching a show, and then it goes back to, what were my goals? Did I spend that time meditating like I said I was going to do? Did I spend that time in my word like I said I was going to do? Did I pray today? And yes, I think it's really hard to stay focused with the amount of content that's coming in from everywhere. And then as Christians, we also need to be mindful of what we're taking in and how that affects us mentally and spiritually. So it's definitely hard to stay focused. I think one thing that I've done to help myself in that is put limits on my phone, because most of the content I'm taking in is on my phone. So putting limits on social media usage and putting limits on how much video content or YouTube or whatever it is I'm taking in a day, and setting reminders and alarms to make sure that I'm focusing on my goals and the things that I said I was going to do.
Entertainment continues to serve its purpose of evoking emotion and being an escape from reality. And I do think that it is hard to focus, especially when we have instant access to watch videos all the time, and we have instant access to the news all the time, and we have instant access to other people through social media, which is easy to make you feel like you are, as a former pastor of mine said, actually, and he was quoting someone else, social media makes us feel omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent. Well, yeah, I mean, really, I think the main thing is omniscient, but yeah, or omnipresent, really, because we think we can be everywhere at the same time, and yeah, possibly omniscient, because yeah, I guess you kind of know everything about everyone, or at least you think you do. You think you can. And omnipotent, I guess, having the power to know what's up in everyone's business, and the power to always speak what's on your mind whenever to whoever, and they kind of have to see you in the newsfeed unless they block you.
Yeah. So then I guess it's kind of like from like an artist's perspective, and also like from a consumer's perspective, right? Like there is like an elevation of self that happens that can like be dangerous, right? Whether it's you're elevating yourself and you're taking all this pride in your art as an artist, or like, you know, you're elevating yourself by thinking that, you know everything through social media, or stuff like that. It's just, yeah, it's just something like kind of going back to discernment, right? Like it's just something that you gotta be, prayerful of it, right? Because like, the Lord calls us to be in the world but not of it. So entertainment isn't inherently evil, but like there are definitely aspects of it that can, make anyone stray from the Lord.
Like I said, I delete all of my social media apps off my phone whenever I want to tap out, and I also do that whenever I want to, whenever I have a big paper due, or whenever I want to tune in with God or if I'm fasting for a day or something, because it's just so hard to have your phone on, to have all those apps and things pinging and PMing you, and to not, give your focus to them. So I like to just, you can always re-download the app, you can always sign back into your account, but it's best for me to just delete those, because who's gonna want to get on their laptop and go through all those steps every time you want to check Instagram? So it's just easier for me.
I guess the cop-out answer could be, well, because God chose me to become a Christian. which, like, is true. I don't know how much of a cop-out that answer is, but, you know, and it's true, and I think, right, that, like, I mean, a lot of it was, like, purpose, I think, for me. Even though I was raised Christian, I grew up going to church, it really wasn't until college when a lot of that stuff, I guess, became real for me, or started to, yeah, I just kind of, I guess, realized that I was very churched, but I wasn't necessarily Christian, and that, like, I hadn't, you know, given my life to him, or I hadn't, you know, said, you know what, Lord, like, I want to love you more than I love myself, more than I love my parents, more than I love getting good grades, more than I love people loving me, and I think that that was really transformative. So I think it all, like, came down to purpose. There was something about Christianity, and I think in its rawest and most true form, that really, it just really, like, I think it made all the parts of me make sense. It put a lot of my passions into perspective, and I just felt like, yeah, like, I loved knowing that, like, God could use me and was using me to do things. I think that just changed a lot of how I view myself and a lot of what I wanted to strive for.
I decided to become a Christian. I can't give myself too much credit because, you know, on one hand I chose God, on the other hand God chose me. I recognized love with God's help, and in addition to that, I understood and knew the gravity of my separation from him, and that is essentially what the effects of sin are. Bad thoughts, doing bad things, and I knew that I couldn't hold up to perfection, I couldn't hold up to purity, so decided to be in a relationship with Jesus because I knew all these truths and I knew love.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, I grew up in the church, and from the time I was a child, I always believed that there was a God, and that God was Jesus, the God of Israel. And I was raised in a Baptist church. My dad was a deacon, my mom was very involved, and therefore I was very involved. All my friends were children of Sunday school teachers or the pastor's children. So I really was surrounded with people who were believers my whole entire life. And so it was never very hard for me to believe this, to believe that Jesus was the savior of the world, that to believe in the Holy Trinity, to believe that there's only one way to heaven. And so it just seemed very matter of fact for me.
This question is probably the hardest for me because I don't ever remember making the conscious decision to become a Christian. I just feel like I always have been. And some people may say that doesn't make any sense, and maybe there's other people out there that understand where I'm coming from. It's not just the fact that, like, I grew up in church, I've been in church my whole life, and my grandfather was a pastor, but I've always felt like I had a personal relationship with God. I've always prayed and talked to Jesus, and that's just been a part of who I am for as long as I can remember. I made the conscious decision to get baptized when I was about 8, and I don't think there was like, well, why did I do it at 8? I think I always wanted to do it. 8 was just when I built up the courage to ask to get it done. If I had to really pinpoint like a formative decision on, I can't even say like a decision on walking the walk, because obviously none of us are perfect, but I feel like I've been about that life since I was real little. You can, ask my mom. I was going to church on my own even before high school, when my mom and I were even going to different churches. And so it was never like my family dragged me to it. It was always something I wanted to do on my own. But I can say that definitely in college I was challenged in my Christian faith and in my walk, just because of, you know, situations that happen to you, but then also because you are the Christian on campus, you really do have to be about that life because everyone is watching what you're doing. Now you've become the poster child or the mascot. And so you can't be going to the parties everybody else is going to. You can't respond to people that try to attack you in certain ways. You really have to hold yourself accountable. And so I can say that during that time, I definitely was pushed in a way that I hadn't been pushed up till then. But as far as becoming a Christian, it's really just always been in me. And yeah, that's it.
I became a Christian when I was 13 years old. I first, like I had said the Lord, the prayers and everything, and accepted Jesus into my heart when I was a kid, when I was like 6. But I believe whenever I was 13, I was with a bunch of my friends, and we were truly like worshiping God, and there were just tears all over the room, and we were like, guys, this is real. Like, we have truly experienced the Holy Spirit tonight. And that night I went home, and in my bed, I prayed to God and asked him into my heart truly that time. And then I had my first real test of truly becoming and stretching myself as a Christian whenever I was in my, whenever I was about 20 or 21. I was with, again, a bunch of my friends who were also really into the church, really into studying and digging down into who Jesus was and what the Bible really meant, and not reading the Bible as we were taught to, but reading the Bible as a relationship and something that we wanted to learn and dig into and truly study. And that's whenever I truly understood what it meant to be a Christian, what God was asking of me. And it helped me to break apart the vision of a Christian that I had built up in my mind of what a Christian should be, and I believe what a lot of people think that Christians are, and separated that from who I believed that the Jesus of the Bible that I was reading really meant for a Christian to be. And that was a real turning point in my life, and I believe that it just made me just dig down deeper into, like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to be. This is exactly whose I want to be and what I want to show the world that a Christian is. And yeah, that's why I became a Christian, and that's why I am still a practicing Christian, because I see who Jesus was in the Bible, and I think that he was amazing and so loving and nurturing and wise, and I see that and I want to be that. And so, yeah, that's why I am still to this day striving my very best to be like Jesus.
Hi, my name is Crystal.
Hi, my name is J-Rod.
And this is What I Think.
And this is what I think.
Oh, is it the last question?
That's
okay.
it.
All right.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. All right, cool.
Had a moment there.
Peace.